This story poignantly explores the aftermath of infidelity in a relationship. Opie's wife's one-night stand led to her contracting herpes, initially misdiagnosed as a yeast infection. The emotional toll on both partners was profound, with her experiencing health issues like high blood pressure. Ultimately, Opie chose to separate due to the breach of trust, fueled by their deeply held values. The story serves as a stark reminder of the enduring impact of infidelity on trust and the core values that underpin a marriage. It illustrates how a single lapse in judgment can alter the trajectory of a relationship and reshape one's life. Now let's get into the story. I'm posting my story today because over the past year and a half, I have been a lurker on here and have read many of other people's stories. I'm trying to get some sort of insight or clarity that would help me in my situation. There are a lot of heartbreaking stories on here, but also some gems. I hope you can take something away from my story, or that it can give you some sort of clarity on your journey through whatever it is you're going through. Back in 2018, at the end of July, my wife left for a quick work trip on a Thursday and flew home Saturday morning. That evening, my wife and I went to my stepdad's birthday dinner, and nothing seemed off or anything, totally normal. Sunday, we had our typical routine: grocery shopping, errands, and getting ready for the work week. The following Monday, when the work week started, everything seemed normal, and we did our usual texting throughout the day. But on my way home from work, she texted me, saying, "I think I have a yeast infection, and I'm going to get it checked out." I made a joke saying, "Hopefully, it's not an STD, lol." She LOL'd back, and that was that. A few hours later, before I had seen her, she texted me and said, "Your comment earlier about it being an STD was weird. You don't think I'm cheating on you, do you?" I kind of laughed and texted back, "No, lol." But something about that comment from her put me off a little. Thinking nothing of it, I went back to whatever I was doing. Looking back, this was red flag number 1. 2 days went by, and she said that it got worse, and that she was going back in. I thought to myself, wow, I feel bad for her because I know she has had something like this mildly before, but never this bad. When she came home from the doctor for the second time, she said she now has thrush and a severe yeast infection. I remember thinking to myself, what is thrush? She explained to me how it's a throat infection. I remember joking with her, saying, "Well, if you're sick, stay away from me because I don't want to get sick." And I'm so glad I did stay away. Looking back, all of this was red flag number 2. For the next couple of days and into the weekend, she was pretty much bedridden. She called into work and did some work things from home that she could. I remember not getting too close to her those handful of days and just kind of looking at her while she was either in bed or on the couch and just feeling bad. She was clearly sick, and there really wasn't anything I could do. The following week, as she started to feel better, that's when I noticed something was going on with her. One day, I came home from work, and she was crying on the couch. I asked her what was wrong, and she said that she was going to start seeing a counselor. I was a bit puzzled, but I said okay and asked if I was going to go too, or if I needed to go. She said no, and that she just hasn't been feeling herself and needed to talk to someone. I said okay, red flag number 3. A few days later, I get out of the shower, and she is sitting on the bed, crying again. I asked what's going on, and she said to me, "Is this as good as it gets? Is this what we want? Is this what I want? Is there anything more to life than this?" I remember being a little caught off guard because it took a second to register what she was asking. I didn't really know what to say, and I asked her, "What do you mean?" She just responded with a, "Never mind." I can't recount what happened after that. Then, on August 14th at 9:00 p.m., we are getting in bed, and she starts crying again. I ask her what's the matter, and she starts crying even harder. I told her, "I know something has been going on these last couple of weeks, and whatever it is, I just want you to know I love you. And whatever it is, We will work through it." She said, "I can't tell you. If I tell you, you won't want to work it out." It was at that moment I started to feel the butterflies and adrenaline, or whatever you want to call it, in my stomach. And I said, "Please tell me." Then she hit me with it. I had a one-night stand. It was in that moment all the red flags, all the little things that were going on in those previous weeks, all came together like one big puzzle. Here's what happened. When she was through with work for the day, she went to a bar to have a drink before going back to her hotel. She sent me a picture of the beer she was drinking, and I said the nightly "love you, good night." While she was at the bar, she met a guy with the same name as me. Go figure. She ended up talking to him all night and having a few more drinks, and they left the bar at about 2 o'clock in the morning. They went back to his house, where she then performed oral, and then they had intimate without a condom. Turns out he had herpes and ended up giving it to her. And that yeast infection and thrush in her throat was actually the herpes outbreak. I remember feeling absolutely heartbroken, devastated, shocked, and in disbelief when she told me everything that had happened. I was pretty messed up for a few months following Discovery Day. So much that I had to get on meds for a while to get me straight. I knew something was physically wrong with me because I felt like total crap all the time. And turns out I had a blood pressure of 149/127. No wonder I felt like crap. I would say we had a good marriage. We were everyone's favorite couple. My dad even called us Ken and Barbie. I'm just trying to give you some context because not dysfunctional, nor did we have some serious and obvious marital issues. But I guess what happened kind of proves otherwise. I remember when I told some of my close friends, and family, everyone had the same wide-eyed look and the same "Are you serious?" response. It was a total shock to me as well as everyone that knew us. She's been going to a counselor this entire time and digging into everything that happened. The whys, the hows, the whats, all of it. She has told me she doesn't know why, out of all the times she's been hit on by guys, why she gave in this time. It doesn't really matter though, because what's done is done. And all it takes is one time to bring a marriage crumbling down. She did say he made her feel wanted, gave her attention, and I guess validated her by telling her she was beautiful. If that's all it took, she has her own issues to deal with, and unfortunately, she wasn't adult enough to really get them out or say that something was really wrong before it was too late. It's been over a year and a half, and we are separated, but this is still a major roadblock for me in my life. I have chosen to walk away from her and our marriage, and I struggle because this is never what I wanted. She wants to stay together and make it work, but for me, the damage is too great. Over this last year and a half, I do think she has tried to do the right things to try to make it work, but with the STD involved, I just can't. With all of what happened and knowing the details, I just can't do it. For me, the disrespect is too great, the humility is too much, and it was an act that was just uncalled for and was so selfish. It's sad because she knows she ruined a perfectly normal marriage and wishes she could take it back and wants a redo. But she made her choices that night. Plenty of them led her down that path. I don't think I'll ever understand how she could leave the bar with him, get in his car, drive with him, go to his house, go inside, go into his bedroom. There are so many gates and red flashing lights and ringing bells and all of that. It's just unbelievable, but she made every one of those choices. I tried to be aware of my pride and keep it in check, and I ask myself why I can't move forward with her. For me, it comes down to my values and beliefs, and what has happened goes against everything I believe in and stand for. Due to lots of cognitive dissonances, then the whole herpes aspect that will never go away and will always be a constant reminder of what she did. I choose to not put myself at risk of getting it, mentally and emotionally. It's just too much. Plus, I just don't see her in the same light or view her the same way. I've lost the respect and admiration I had for her. There are a lot of layers to this onion, And it's crazy to see how something like this can change your entire life, physically and emotionally. I hope this helps you in some way. Keep your head up. You still have a life to live. Today's second story. In this story, a couple in their 40s, married for 18 years with grown twins, experiences a decline in their intimate life. They decide to take separate vacations with friends to rekindle their intimacy. However, the husband becomes concerned when his wife's behavior becomes increasingly distant during her trip to Colorado. He unexpectedly visits her and discovers she has been meeting another man, her supposed lifelong friend and new lover. After a heated confrontation, the husband decides to end their marriage. Following the separation, the husband receives support from his sons, friends, and a woman named Jade, who becomes a source of emotional support. Over time, the wife's affair ends, and she tries to reconnect with her husband through emails, but he has moved on with Jade. The story serves as a cautionary tale about the consequences of infidelity and how relationships can change drastically due to betrayal. It also highlights the importance of finding support and moving forward after such a difficult experience. Now, let's delve deeper into the story. My wife, 41, and I, 46, were married for 18 years when our intimate life ran out of steam. We had twins that were grown and attending college. When they moved out, I thought for sure our intimate life was going to get a boost. It did for a month, but then having intimacy anywhere in the house at any time got boring. We read online that taking a friend vacation without your spouse is a good way to miss each other and crave intimacy. Friendly flirting can also help fuel the craving your partner has for you. I was skeptical of this, but it was the first time in a while I saw my wife so excited to do something. We started making arrangements for our separate vacations. For some reason, my wife and her friends decided to go to Colorado, where the town she grew up in was on their tour schedule. As far as I knew, my wife didn't have a very positive childhood. I was surprised she wanted to go there without me. I decided my friends and I would go to Wyoming. I always wanted to visit Yellowstone National Park. After the tickets were bought, my wife started texting on her phone a lot. I didn't want to bug her, and I was pretty sure she was just making arrangements and chatting with the girls about the upcoming vacation. I texted my friends about it, and of course, we just didn't have as much to say. I asked my wife for a copy of their itinerary, and she was caught off guard by my request. She said she would have to edit it because she mixed up the dates on the first draft. Once she fixed it, she gave me one of the printouts. It was a bunch of girly activities like yoga, shopping, yogurt treats, hiking, and restaurants. Fast forward to 3 days into our 6-day vacation. I missed her a lot, and suddenly 6 days felt like way too long. To make matters worse, my wife stopped responding to me. It really made me worry. I told my friends about it, and they, of course, told me to just relax and enjoy my time away in a new place. I did for another day, but my wife was responding really weirdly to my texts. It was like she didn't care what I had to say and only responded because she had to. My wife's itinerary placed her group at a restaurant that night, exactly 6 hours away from my friends and me. I started driving there at 1 p.m., so I'd get there by 7 p.m. When I got there, I found all of my wife's friends. They were shocked to see me. I asked them where my wife was, and they told me the worst news ever. She left them to meet up with someone else. I collapsed onto one of the chairs by their table, and they offered me even more information. They said she'd been on her phone until this morning when she left before anyone woke up. She only texted them to say she wouldn't be back until late. I asked if she said anything else about who she was meeting or where she was going. Finally, one of her friends gave me a tiny piece of paper. She said it was for safety reasons because my wife didn't want to go somewhere without someone knowing. It was an address. This friend added that my wife didn't want her to tell anyone, especially not me, where she was going. This was only if she didn't come back in time for the flight home. Seeing as I showed up unexpectedly and concerned, this friend was persuaded to tell me the truth. I thanked her and ran out to my car. She caught up to me and asked if she could tag along. I agreed. I needed someone else to balance out my panic. Her name was Jade, and she told me about her family, hobbies, and work. It was a great distraction, but as soon as we got to the address, I was worried again. It was someone's house. There weren't any cars in the driveway, but it was only 8 p.m. Just before 9 p.m., a car pulled into the driveway. A man got out of the driver's seat, and my wife got out of the passenger seat. I got out, followed by Jade, and called out, "Hey, honey." She jumped and turned to see me. Her mouth was hanging open, and she was infuriated. She immediately asked what I was doing there and why I was with Jade. I told her she came with me for emotional support because I wasn't sure what I was going to find. I looked at the man I had never seen before and asked who he was. He boldly said he was my wife's lifelong friend and new lover. I punched him in the face. My wife screamed and got closer to him. She yelled that he didn't know we were married. I asked her whose fault it was. He didn't know because she didn't want him to know. I asked if she planned for this the whole time, and she refused to answer me, even having the nerve to say I shouldn't be there. She looked at Jade and blamed her for being a snitch. I stepped in and said she only told me because she shared my concern, and I drove 6 hours to find her. This trip was supposed to renew our intimacy and give my wife a chance to miss me, as she thought fondly of us. But instead, she used this time to meet up with a man from her past. I told her she wasn't welcome back at our home, and we were over. I trusted her to remain loyal, and used this time to benefit our relationship, and she chose to destroy it. I couldn't believe it. After all this ranting, her bold lover started cursing at Jade and me, demanding we leave. He encouraged her to get in the house. She made eye contact with me for no more than 4 seconds before saying she was sorry and following him into the house. 4 seconds was all the deliberation it took for my wife to leave me standing in another man's yard. I got back in the car with Jade and started driving back to the restaurant. She apologized for me having to go through all of this. She said she wanted to keep me company when I got home, if that was okay, and I graciously accepted. After she got back to her car, I started the long car ride home. I called my twin sons and guy friends to tell them what was going on. They were extremely sympathetic and flocked to my side for emotional support. 3 weeks after I got home, Jade was visiting me at least twice a week. I appreciated her a lot, just as much as I appreciated my sons and friends, because they continued checking up with me over the phone or in person. My sons told me they could never see Mom in the same light again. They kept in touch with her over the phone, but dedicated themselves to their college studies and didn't consider changing their lives to help her in any way. One of my wife's mutual friends told Jade that her affair partner dumped her after 4 months for being too clingy. That had to hurt so bad. She was used to being married for 18 years. It's no wonder she was clingy to him. She probably wanted to be assured emotionally that she made the right decision, but that only made him leave her. I wondered what she was going to do with her life now, but I didn't try very hard to find out. An entire year later, I checked my old email address and found that my wife had been sending me emails weekly that entire time. The messages ranged from extremely angry with me to completely desperate for my response and love. I was honestly relieved I didn't find these messages until a year later, because by now, I was romantically involved with Jade and wasn't tempted to take my wife back after her infidelity. I hope this story encourages people not to cheat. I hope it encourages people who are going through betrayal to know it's okay. It's not the end of the world, and life goes on. Even though my wife's world turned upside down, she still had another chance to change her ways and make herself a better woman. Here are my thoughts on the situation. I'm truly sorry to hear about the pain you experienced due to your partner's betrayal. It's fortunate that despite your efforts to improve your marriage, your wife made a selfish choice to become involved with someone else. It's clear that your wife may not have realized the value of reigniting the spark in your long and successful relationship. She sacrificed the father of her children and 18 years of history for a brief 4-month fling. It's essential for people to avoid making such choices. The lesson here is to reserve intimate connections for your long-term partner. Intimacy should be a sacred expression of love and commitment, and engaging with the wrong people at the wrong time can lead to trouble. The best way to rekindle the romance in a long-term relationship is through open and intimate communication. Pay attention to what your partner desires, become selfless in fulfilling their needs, and consider trying new ways to express your love. If you're uncertain, have a conversation with your partner about it.